Live streaming is on.
So hi guys, today we have with us Pratibha Rajsekar. She works with Poti. It's a self-publishing platform, and she's a close friend of mine. So I thought that considering the film that we are discussing, Pratibha might have some great insights about the film. She's also actually somebody who's well versed in quite a few languages. So she actually might have a personal perspective to give uh, in terms of how languages are translated, especially in literature, in publishing. So, Pratibha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Pratibha. As Vishal said, I work for a self publishing platform. I'm a publishing advisor. I am also a big lover of films in almost all languages. And I do speak a few languages. But overall, I'm pretty excited for this discussion we're going to have about this wonderful little film.
Okay, so Vishal, let's start with you. First reactions about the
I
film.
I am a I have a personal connection with the film just because of the name Murakami. Uh, I am a huge fan of Murakami. I mean, huge. My favorite book in literature is his book Kafka on the Shore, Kafka by the Shore. And I am such a huge fan of that book that I decided that I will never ever read a book by Murakami because I don't want anything to tarnish my feeling about that book. I love that book. It's a stunning book, stunning piece of literature. And Murakami, um, I've never read anything like that. So when this film was being considered for curation, I was like half there. Okay, this has to go, and it had it was consistently absorbing the documentary. It kind of had a meditative quality which attracted me to it, and lovely documentary, short and sweet.
Who wants to go next? Mohammed?
Oh, so when I saw the curated list of movies, the first two movies I made means I wanted to watch at any cost was Piazza and Murakami because the name itself attracted me, as Vishal said, because I had read already one, not whole, but a short story by Murakami that Men Without Women. I don't know what attracts readers to him, but it's so simple. Language is so simple, and it completely takes you. So that was the uh, reason I wanted to watch this documentary, and it was quite informative. But before watching it, when I read the description, that I thought, okay, it would be more about translator, how the process is going, what it what goes into translating it. But more than that, what I found more informative was how a writer influences the translator. Uh, I feel that we never acknowledge their contribution, translators' contribution. The the translator there are out, because without them we will never be able to reach other means authors from other countries, other language, other backgrounds. So it was very informative. uh, Loved it. Learned something, how her life is being, how much she has dedicated herself to the Muragami's work. It's nearly 20 years. It takes a lot, and to be able to forget yourself and be in another person's skin is very difficult because most of us don't get to realize their own self, means knowing completely knowing their own self. It's really difficult. But here she, her dedication, she goes to that Japan, she spends time, uh, and see, there is so much sacrifice she's making, she spends a lot of time with just that book, so that she can try to, she means, so that she can capture that essence of his words. And there are, I think, few sentences are repeated all the time, like there is no any perfect sentence, as there is no perfect despair. So it caught me a lot. And yeah, but that frog thing, I'm still don't know what. I thought it is a Murakami, one of the characters in Murakami's book. But worms, I thought it was like a some kind of metaphorical for people. uh, I don't know how to put it, why it was bought in the documentary, but there might be something. So I thought of just catching up you guys and trying to understand it better. Yeah, that's it.
Pratipha, would you like to go next? After that, Sharanya Kaivalya, and then I'll go.
All right. Uh, so I I watched it just an hour ago, so everything is very fresh in my mind. Um, I felt very, I don't know. There is this kind of quality in the film where you become become the protagonist. You become her, as she's walking the streets, as she's sitting in those bars. Either you feel like these are things which you have probably done, and you are like, you're reminded of those feelings which you felt at that point, or it makes gives you the sense of longing of wanting to do those things as well. Which I think somewhere later in the film she does mention that if you are unable to travel, and considering this is from like 2017, right? That if you're unable to travel, and at that time books are which will take you around the world, and that is exactly the kind of situation we are all in at the moment. And so while you're watching it, you feel this, you feel Metis feeling sense of walking down the streets when she's having these conversations with film, with all these people, other translators, trying to understand this language. It's not as if she doesn't know it. She does know the language. She was pretty conversational in the film with all the people in Japan. However, trying to bring out the essence of what was written to ensure that us as readers, or well, the Danish people as readers, when they are reading, they are getting the best form and tone of the original work. This sense of loneliness that is there with her, we don't really see her with anyone apart from her cats. Cats, symbols from Murakami's books, but cats, those kind of, there is this such a, this weird dream-like situation in the whole film. It is such far out, this thing. At one moment you are following her, at the same moment you are also following the frog, and it brings this very dreamlike, almost fantasy-ish feeling to the whole work. At the end of it, you feel this, you feel like this sense of, almost like, for lack of a better word, achievement, when she's finally coming to this place of, recognition. How this work of translation is like her baby. She has worked on it for such a long time and gone through all her internal struggles of, you know making it as much as possible perfect, which keeps as Muhammad had mentioned, which keeps repeating again and again, trying to make it as perfect as possible, but knowing very well that it will never be perfect. I think that was brilliant. Made me feel happy, and also gave this sense of longing, of wanting to read a Murakami book, of wanting to travel, of wanting to speak to people in with who speak in other languages. I think that was very peculiar. Very rarely do films make you feel that way. I'm sorry for my cat, by the way. But
Is
yeah,
the
I'm
cat
done.
hungry, or is it
No,
calling for your attention?
just attention.
Okay, sweet.
But yeah, I'm done.
Okay, thanks. Sharani, are you going next?
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh, Pratibha, could we have like cat tags? Maybe after the live stream, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
guess why not?
I'd like to see
Sure.
the the cat also.
Okay. Initial thoughts about the movie. I sort of enjoyed this film. It had a very meditative quality, as everyone put it. Um, Usually, I've watched films from, an interpretation of the author's novel, or maybe a direct author's work as in form of novels or something like that. But this one coming from a translator's point of view, I think that was a very interesting angle to approach someone's work from. Um, Also, a lot of elements from his way of writing has been used in the film. So uh, there are a lot of Easter eggs with like the two moons, the frogs, some of the landscapes. So it's not just a microscopic interpretation of what she's doing, but it's also getting to know his work through the work she's doing. Um, there were a few more thoughts I had about the movie, but I guess we can talk about that in the course of the conversation. But overall, I really enjoyed the film. Um, Murakami has like a lot of fanfare and like a huge following behind him. Um, the film was very detached from that hype, and they did a good job of just showcasing what she does. So yeah, I sort of liked it.
Okay, thanks. Kaivalya, you and then me.
Sorry.
Uh, we're just doing first reactions, whatever you thought of the film.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I have never read this author. So I was going in absolutely blind. I unfortunately, maybe because of the way I was brought up, I was not really exposed to a lot of books apart from the scholastic material. And uh, even Ramayana, Mahabharata were the only escapes, quite frankly speaking. So yeah, I went in absolutely blank. And yeah, the one thing which I really liked about this thing is there were so many parallels to so many things that are happening right now. Like there is this thing about the bar, the sushi bar. They're saying that we are going to end up because no, our kids do not want to do it because obviously people want to eat pizza, so there is no demand for this thing, and our kids do not want to fall into a debt trap. So yeah, this is probably the last generation that is doing this, which is actually happening in a lot of places. There are a lot of jobs that are going away. So that was one thing. And then there were then this whole the thing that matlab, can I speak in Hindi, if you all are comfortable, because कुछ चीजें होती है वो हिंदी में बोलना ज्यादा आसान पड़ जाती है मेरे लिए. uh,
Sure, man. You can go ahead, but keep in mind some people may not understand you.
yeah,
So
yeah. So
okay,
basically, there was this thing where the frog says that the worm is underground and we will have to fight it, and this war we will not get any recognition and this thing. So again, a different Hindi phrase we have seen ki ग- सबको सफाई तो सबको चाहिए, लेकिन कोई गटर में जाके सफाई नहीं करना चाहता. तो that thing sort of came into my mind immediately, like this is so real, like this thing was spread over there. And then even this thing about the thing that we can read the book and we can learn about the culture a lot more. So that was very good. Now coming back to the main actual story, the one thing that I really appreciated was that this author, unlike a lot of people, now I don't know because I obviously I do not read a lot of books, so I obviously do not read a lot of translations also. But this author actually goes far, outside of her place to understand that when the author is writing something, what exactly he's thinking about, what lens is he watching the entire world around him from, and based on that she's trying to give an accurate, as accurate possible a translation as she could. So that was something that I truly appreciate. And obviously, like Mohammed said, that we do not realize how much work the translators put in. And yeah, I mean, after watching this, I have a newfound respect for translators. I did had a little bit respect because I know a lot of books and a lot of stories or a lot of movies are rewritten to make a remix. And so I understand that a lot of work goes into it. But capturing the actual essence, I mean, if authors are doing that for the translations from other languages, then that is something that is very very hard, as we have seen. And I truly appreciate that thing. That was one thing. And the and the most important thing was that it starts with, okay, what is the meaning of this translation? There is no perfect text, there is no perfect written word, there is no perfect literature. And it actually ends with a translation which was absolutely mind blowing, that there is not going to be any perfect writing available to you, just like there is no perfect despair. So it started from translating of a word, and it actually culminated into exact same translation. So that was also a very standout moment for me. I think we can move forward.
Okay, I'll go next. So one of the reasons we chose this film, or I personally voted for this film, is because we watch a bucket load of films every month before selecting, and you tend to see um, a lot of similarities in films of a similar genre or similar subject matter. And even on a mechanical level of filmmaking, you see a lot of films which end exactly at 90 minutes. And when you watch that film, you wonder, is the writing so precise that they managed to wrap up a film in 90 minutes, or did they stretch the film longer than it needed to be to end up there? So it gets me thinking, when you're watching films in bulk, that does this film really need 90 minutes? And it's very refreshing to see a film which says what it has to say and just ends where it has to. And this film is some 50 minutes long, or 55 minutes with credits. And it hearing from everyone's reaction, I don't think anyone felt there's anything missing in the film. It said everything it had to say, and it did it in a very concise way, and also a very creative way. This may be the only documentary I've ever seen where VFX is used to bring an additional layer to the story. And another thing I really liked about this film is, even though the film has the name Murakami in the title, we don't see Murakami. And I was surprised to see, like, some people online who've reviewed it are disappointed by the fact that Murakami is not in the film. But I thought that was one of its strengths, that they did not show Murakami in this film, because this film is about Mette Home, the lady who's been, you know, working behind the scenes for past 20-25 years. She's always been a part of the background process that most people never think about, or research further into. And she's getting this 50-minute film to showcase her work and showcase her process. So it's a celebration of the translator. So I feel if we had Murakami in the film, it would have taken away some of that spotlight from her. And credit where due to the director, the final scene of the film, or a final live action scene of the film, is at an event where Murakami is supposed to meet Mete home on stage, and they do some sort of event together talking about the book that has been translated. You see footage of that event, but you don't see Murakami, and that is a very conscious choice. So Vishal will agree with me on this, that filmmaking is not always about what you show, but also what you don't show. So I really respected the filmmaker for his choices and his efficiency in storytelling. So yeah, that was what I felt about the film initially.
And as Sharanya said, right, Murakami has a cult following. So it's an easy thing to do to show him and then give his views about about her, about the process, what he thinks, and it's it's the least interesting thing to actually hear what he thinks about the translation. Not because it's not important, but he's obviously not going to criticize her. So he's going to say good things about her. So the choice to not show him and not fall in that reverential trap was quite interesting. And I was waiting. I personally was waiting to see Murakami. Not that it's a complaint, but being such a fan, I was waiting to hear from him. But good that they did show. I didn't really mind it because you don't feel that it's missing.
But you don't feel disappointed that he's not there, right?
That's what I'm saying. You don't feel that it's missing out of the film, right? Oh, why didn't they show it? People can comment whatever they want. That's their choice. But I personally did not feel that there was anything missing.
If I may interject, I think that throughout the movie, it's all about that Murakami. Whatever his work is, it's so ambiguous that anybody can imagine anything, right? So it's more about imagination. Even that frog is basically dreaming Murakami. She's dreaming an imagination. Is imagining Murakami's character in front of her. So I think they left it over there to give you a strong message that now you imagine what happened over there. So it's basically in with the theme of the movie. That's what I felt personally.
About the frogs, okay. I mean, I have something to say. Um, I Before I read Kafka on the Shore, I was a kind of filmmaker who was not really interested in. If I had to make something, I was not really interested in surrealism. It's not something, not because it's good or it's not good. It's because it was not something that came naturally to me. After I read the book, I realized that my what I make has to have some kind of, not necessarily out and out surrealism, but it has to have some sort of poetics to it. It had such an effect on me because there is a sequence in the book where it rains frogs, and it also connected with me because one of the films that I really love by Paul Thomas Anderson is Magnolia, where there is a sequence where it rains frogs, and I don't exactly remember what happens, but it's part of the film, and I always used to think, why did he choose to do that? And now I wonder whether he's read the book and he's a fan of the book, because it's very uh, mm, it's very difficult to say that, oh, he's not read the book, because why would it rain frogs unless it has some sort of cultural connotation, which I don't know. So uh, Murakami, the book, have had a lot of personal influence on me. um, yeah, just wanted to let that out, that's all.
By the way, I just wanted to let Kaivalya and Pratibha know that this is an unmoderated discussion. We don't really, have a Q&A sort of form factor. Uh, but yeah, if you have something to add to each other's points, unmute at any time and speak anytime you like. But I do have a question for Pratibha. That this is, one of the rare films where you see the publisher being involved in the process. I mean, maybe there are films where you see a publisher's work, but it was new to me to see, the involvement of a publisher being featured in a film. And how much of that could you relate to what you are doing? And is there any translation projects that you're involved in, or any insight that you could share from your professional perspective?
Yeah. So I was quite surprised when I saw the scene when she goes into the publisher's office the first time around. I was even more surprised where she was able to make those decisions on things like the cover, the color, the image being used, the fonts. So when you need to understand that when we're talking from a publishing point of view, right, everything belongs to the author. It's the author's decision, right? And because of that, what ends up happening is a lot of times when we are dealing with a traditional publisher, which in this case, this was a traditional publisher, they want to make the book for the readers, right? They're trying to appease the
Right.
readers. They want to see what the reader is wants to view, what would make it more palatable for a reader, not really trying to get what the author wants. In this case, it is special because it is not the author. You're dealing with the person who's has translated the author's works, but in all effects is a co-writer of the book in Danish, right? So because of that, she has all these powers and wanting to make the book, the final book which is getting printed, to be something which the author would approve of. What we do notice is a lot of times she mentions he would not like this, he might not enjoy this. She mentions that a couple of times, where you get this feeling that it is not completely an individual choice. She is taking the decision, keeping his values and his requests and what he likes uh, in mind, and making those decisions in his place. That is a very different kind of a situation. It doesn't happen normally. That could also be because we are talking about a particular publishing. I'm not very well versed with publishing houses in Europe, but from the looks of it, this Denmark is not really a large publishing sphere, so there would be very limited number of traditional publishers. So for them to take this kind of a project is a big risk. We might think that major authors would be automatic bestsellers. It doesn't really happen that way. So for a small publisher, which in this case would be a small publisher to take on the risk of doing a translated work is a big deal. And then, but at the same time, giving the reins to the translator, the person who is bringing this work to you effectively in the author's place, is a big deal. That was very different, because even in regular traditional publishing systems, many a times the author does not get their way. They do not get their way always. Most of the times publishers want to make it more of a something which will sell, and getting in this situation, seeing something where the author kind of removes that aspect completely and picks what they want in the final product is special, because it means that you had a say in it. Like you could write the best book, but at the end of it, if a publisher changes something, like we want to say that don't judge a book by its cover, but most people do. So if they're going to change everything, it essentially loses the original intent and the original feeling behind it. So that is something which is very different. It doesn't happen normally. So it was kind of special to see that on screen, to have that kind of relationship between, and seeing how closely the protagonist works both with the publisher and that is, she's involved in every single process. It is not just like, oh, she's translating. It's not. It is till the last, till the first copy gets printed, she is involved in everything. That is something which kind of puts in, this large umbrella of what all comes under bringing a book out. uh, so that was kind of cool. um, in that way, to kind of bring it back to my work per se would be kind of difficult, because I don't work in a traditional publishing space. I work for a self-publishing platform where the author themselves becomes the publisher. So there is a lot more freedom in the self-publishing sector, because the author can take all the decisions for them. It is completely up to them what they are going to do. So that way, this was kind of weird for me to see, because it felt like almost like a self-publishing system where the author is where the author, the translator, is able to take those decisions, which normally is something which is only applicable most of the time for self-published authors.
So you mentioned that authors may have certain preferences for the color of the cover or the font choices and design choices as such, and the publishers will have their own opinions about what will sell and what will not sell.
Yeah.
And you're in this unique position where you allow the authors to have their freedom, that
Yes.
yes, you can have your choice and publish it the way you want. Now, in your years of experience, have you seen any project where that the design choices coming from an author are not ideal, but they still manage to sell?
Yes, a lot of times.
Oh,
It mostly happens not really for fiction, but non-fiction books, um, more technical books. If you notice, I don't know if anyone, I don't know if there is anyone over here who's has even a small bit of technical background, but technical books are not very pleasing to the eye. When I say technical, it could be IT, it could be computer science, it could be engineering, it could be anything. Technical books are never pleasing to the eye. In fact, to the layperson, it would seem like they all look pretty much the same. However, technical books sell a lot, and because there's so many books, it's not that, oh, you need this book to for you to be able to, so it's not like these books will sell no matter what. That doesn't happen. You see, you still need to have this level of, in fact, there are a bunch of people who would prefer books which have covers like a technical book. I have personally spoken to authors asking them to make some changes to the book covers or something on the book, inside of the book, etc. But a lot of times they're very adamant with what they want. So our job is to in my sphere of working, I can only make suggestions. It is completely up to the author what decision they want to take. But at the same time, it always is a little bit of a bolt to see a book like that, which to me, coming from more of a creative background, is not very appealing, But from the fact that there are that many people out there purchasing this to read, to learn something, etc., as those self-help managerial books, it always surprises me.
hmm. Mm, uh, I wanted to, yeah, Sharanya, please go ahead.
I just had a question to Pratibha. So, in the movie, the translator says that her publishers don't know Japanese and she doesn't know anyone else who knows Japanese. So, it's more of a solo work. Does that mean that the entire work of translating just falls on her, or does she have any editors who would look over it later to ensure that the essence is maintained from the Japanese to the Danish version?
I think in her case, particularly, she would have to work very closely with an editor if there was an editor. And at the same time, the editor would not be editing the way we think of editing normally. When we think of editing, we think like almost rewriting sentences, etc. That would be a freedom which would not be given to her editor, especially when it comes to translated works, because it is the person who translated it. They have already found the best way to put forth the translated content, right? So you can't really edit it. So the editor's job in this case mostly would just be to proofread it. They might have questions. They would work closely with the translator and sit with them to figure out if this is what they meant, because this is what I'm understanding, or this is what I'm interpreting, at the end of it. So that would what will happen. But in this case, there wouldn't be, apart from her, there wouldn't be many people who would have much of a say in the actual written text in the manuscript itself.
Oh, okay.
I have a question for all the Murakami fans in the room. Maybe you could talk a little about how Murakami's works have influenced you, or why is he so revered? Why is he so important to so many people? Mohammed, do you, or
Uh,
Vishal?
I thought Vishal would be going first. Yeah, I'm also a fan. Vishal, you can wait.
No,
Uh,
no, go ahead.
so why Murakami? I'll just share my personal experience that why I loved him. That I think he deals with lonely characters, especially, and it's like you get to connect with that character. Uh, as I mentioned, the first short story about a man without women. It felt very natural what that man is going through his life, how he feels. Uh, it's simply realistic. You get to connect immediately with the character. There are no any fancy words. You don't need to look into the dictionary. Uh, it's simple language. That is what attracts me to this author. Is and apart from that, when I went through his lifestyle, there are many videos there that he wakes up at 4 a.m., then take 10 kilometers jogging. Um, I am always curious about the artist. When I look at the art, I become more curious about the artist. A man's life definitely influences. It speaks more about his work than what art speaks. No, when a man is able to think so universally, definitely he must be having a what to say, uh, a very mature sense of understanding of this world, the philosophy, collective philosophy of this world, which a common man can also connect to. It's not hi-fi people, because there is class divide, religious divide. There are many uh, things that divide humans from other humans. But here is a person who can, with simple words, can immediately connect with you. Because I have read other translation, as Vishal suggested me to read the International Booker Prize books. Though they are simple, though they are, it speaks about their culture. I haven't been able to appreciate that much as compared to Murakami, because I don't know, because of the language or the culture. But here is a person, Murakami, who is from another background, from a culture completely alien to me, but still I am able to connect to him because he speaks in a universal language, which connects to everyone throughout the world. That's why I think, as Sharana mentioned, it's cult follower, because he captures our, what to say, the most inner feelings of a human man. I don't know about women what he speaks, but uh, about men, I am immediately connected with this with his words. Kafka on the Shore also, there is a teenage boy who is traveling. Even there is very simple, and apart from not just humans, he brings life. Uh, he connects this nature, animals, cats, weird things through weird connections. He is able to establish those connections. So I am, even now I am, I always think how this man is able to do such thing. uh, yeah, that is what still attracts me to his literature. uh, that is yeah. Yeah, Vishal, what do you say?
I haven't, as I said, I took a life decision that I'm never going to read any more of Murakami's work. So I can't, I'm not really a scholar on Murakami, but Mohammed actually nailed the fact that he's somehow able to, though it is my views are only based on that one book. He's somehow able to connect everything. So it's not like you're reading a fantasy book. So when you're reading a fantasy book, there is this fantastical elements in the book which make you wonder. But what I read in Kafka on the Shore was this world which was fantastical, but it felt like it was tangible. It felt like it was around me. So that's a great observation, because if that's there in all of his books or majority of his books, then I can totally understand that. My love for Murakami simply emanates from the fact that I read this book. It just blew me away. And there are few books which I read. There are like three books that I've read, and I can say I will never be able to write something like this. I can never think this way. So this is one book. Then the other one is Catch 22. So both of them are my favorite books. And there's one more book called The Sellout. The humor in that book is just, I've never read anything or seen anything like that. So uh, my reverence comes from that point of view. It's just that I felt like the level of writing was next level. And one thing about Murakami is one more thing that Mohammed talked about was I don't talked about gender. I will not be surprised if Murakami does not believe in the construct of gender. He feels, gender is a very fluid thing. I will not be surprised. I have not read anything of that sort coming from Murakami, but reading the book, uh, it's quite a possibility. But I can't really comment why Murakami works because I've not read anything. But I do know that he's, and I've heard about this where people do follow Murakami's daily routine. Apparently, that's a thing. But I've taken a conscious decision to not go into the person, because then, that's another rabbit hole. But whoever's not read the book, I will definitely recommend the book. And Burning is also, I don't know whether you know Vivek, but Burning is also based on a Murakami short story, which I've not read.
Right. It says so in the titles, right?
Yeah, it is. So, a lot of people have just seen though they might not watch South Korean movies, but if you're a Murakami fan, there's a lot of people who've seen the film just because of that. So, he's also, and also somebody who understands pop culture. That was one thing that I noticed. He understands pop culture and he knows how to weave it in a very intellectual way without being very philosophical about it. It's so engaging. It's so engaging. It's quite entertaining also. So this is not something that uh, it's not something that can be taught. So which is true of all geniuses. So that's my view on it. I really don't know what makes him work. I am not read a lot. Pratibha, have you read anything by Murakami?
I have read Men Without Women, and way back when I was way younger, I had read Super Frog Saves the City. That was my first Murakami work. Small story, but still. Uh, I haven't read Kafka on the Shore. I haven't read any of his very famous works. I haven't read any of them. Most of the time, I find it daunting because I see these big books and the way people revere them. I feel scared to read them because somewhere there is a lot of times I have this fear that what if I don't enjoy it as much? And that kind of stops me from reading a lot of these major works of literature which I don't get into purely because of the fact that I feel that it would move the needle for me uh, towards a place where I might not enjoy it as much as I have an expectation that I would enjoy it. It's more with my personal expectations from the works, and that's the reason I haven't read any of his very famous works. I haven't read Kafka on the Shore. I haven't read Norwegian Wood. I know of them, and I kind of know a little bit about all of them, most of them. It's just that I haven't personally read too much. I've only read three. Most of them, I have read most of his short story collections, but that's pretty much it. I know that I have friends have who have this craziness for every time a Murakami work comes out. It's almost like it reminds me of like the early 2000s when the Harry Potter books were coming out and everyone used to go crazy. It's the same thing even now. So I find that, I don't know, endearing that um, this cult following. It's almost like addicts, like they need to have the next one. They need to read more. Even what Vishal had mentioned about following his personal, like, daily routine and things like that. It feels so addictive, and it feels like such a place where I don't know if I should venture there.
Speaking about Harry Potter, Pratibha's sister writes fan fiction and she won some prize for writing Harry Potter fan fiction.
Oh wow, really?
Yes.
That's fascinating. Uh, Sharanya, have you read any Murakami? Any thoughts about why he's so revered?
Yeah, I've read a few books by him, fiction and non-fiction. For me, I've had like a very interesting journey with Murakami. So I got into reading his 1Q84 series because like it had a lot of hype around it, and I just want to know what it was all about. And then his writing style is so different. Like you would just expect like a normal life scene happening in front of you, and suddenly one frog comes and he's like, "Hey, your city's in danger. You're the only one who can help us save it." So it's like really a lot of magic realism stuff happening, and it does take some time to get used to it. So at first I didn't really understand what is happening, so I read some of his other books to try and understand what is happening. So there's like an evolution of his style. So there's a certain order people like suggest you have to read it in. I think one of my biggest regrets is that I just started reading random books because it didn't really make as much sense as it would have if I read it in that order. So there's like a lot of connections happening between the books, like some characters or repeating situations which you can connect if you have read like a majority of his work. um, yeah, apart from that, I sort of prefer his non-fiction books. It's like very what can I say? It's very different to his fiction books. So he's written, as far as I know, he's written three non-fiction books. One is about that the sarin gas attack which happened in a substation. That one, and there was one more about after the earthquake which happened there, and he's written a book about that, and there's one more latest one, I guess, which I haven't read. But he goes in depth into all the things which could have led to the attack or the disaster, and it's sort of very hard hitting, which is very different to his non-fiction writing style. Apart from that, I think there's a universality to his writing. Um, Being a Japanese writer, his things aren't based in Japan as such. You can move the situation to somewhere else and it could still work. So he doesn't mention a lot of places and situation as such unless it's like required in the book or the story. Uh, to be honest, I don't know why people follow him. I followed him because there's like a lot of hype about it, and I was like, oh, let me just check this out. Probably because people can relate to um, the themes of his loneliness and uh, general everyday man, which happens like in many of his books. Or maybe it could be that the feeling of random things happening, magic realism. So you don't know what to expect, and it keeps you in the edge of your seat. So probably people are really fond of him. That's what I think.
In the film, there's a segment where Mete Home, the translator, is having a conversation with someone about how her entire life's work revolves around this one author. And in a way, she will forever be in the shadows of this great writer, but she sees it as a special honor because nobody else can share that claim, or very few people can share that claim that they've had a working relationship for 15-20 years and they understand each other on an intellectual level. And she also said that if it weren't for this project of writing and translating Murakami's work, she believes that her life would have no purpose. And that's a very strong statement to make. But that's also a statement that I think a lot of creative people will relate to. And yeah, I work in VFX. I guess the regular members know that. And I could relate to this sentiment very clearly because I want my work not to be noticed. That is the entire purpose of my job, to not be noticed. And in a way, you VFX people never share the spotlight with, even in award shows. It's one of the earliest awards to be given out. And the ones that come in the end are people who are above the line. Above the line in production terms is like the principal cast, director, producer, all those people. And I had a conversation about this with a filmmaker friend of mine, and he said, if it wasn't for this animation, VFX, and all these things, what would you do? And I said, if it wasn't for this, I don't know what I would do because I simply have no answer. This is the only thing I know, I care about, and the only thing I will probably do. So, yeah, I want to, talk a little more about this whole concept of having a life's purpose and what happens if that is taken away from you. And I think most of us over here are creative people. No, all of us are creative people. So maybe I'll pass the mic to Kaivalya, since he's an actor. Maybe he can share, because acting, I'm assuming it also requires a lot of perseverance and um, willpower to go through, because it's not an easy job being an actor, right?
Yeah, I mean, you go to an audition, you give your basically audition, and then you walk away, and then you have to forget about the audition, because if you think about the audition, you would not be able to concentrate on other audition that you might actually land. So that is the problem that basically a lot of people have that. But I think अगर creative side से देखा जाए तो if we look watch it from the creative point of view, uh, the actors usually now obviously if you are a well-known actor, if you're a well-established actor, then that's a different thing altogether. But most of the time, the actors do not have that much input. At least the character artists, they do not have that much input into the thing. So they have to be what we call like avid. They have to take in whatever is being briefed to them and then act accordingly. Now, in fact, funny thing about me is that I don't even know which type of acting school I follow. So that's a completely different thing altogether. But one of the good things that we can do as an actor is we can make subtle changes to the art form and transform a character. Like for example, I started in a show called Waris where I was like that dumb guy in the household. You know, जो भी करना है करो, you मारपीट करना है जो भी करना है. If there is any problem and you want some muscle power, you will call that guy. But he's not intellectually. He's not very intelligent. And by the time the show ended, my character had transformed into a character who is always surrounded by women and hence is very sensitive. He understands and he's very vulnerable and he feels he's very insecure. So I transformed the character into that thing. So that is something that I did on my own without even telling the writers, and because they were getting good response or maybe the chemistry was going good, they continued with the same path. So we try to do this thing ourselves. But I took it in some other other train of thoughts. My train of thought got lost. So yeah, if the purpose got away, then what will you do? So I don't know, quite frankly speaking, because I did complete my engineering, but I never. I went into engineering thinking that I would become a nice game developer because I wanted to be a games developer. That is why I took IT engineering. But when I was in engineering, I realized that what they are teaching is nothing good. And then over the period of time, I realized that the scope in game development, because a lot of people want to be game developers, but the openings are very less. So I thought, what, I have been a child artist, let's stick to acting, and that is something that I'm also kind of above average then. So that is why I stuck to this. So I personally think that this is my purpose of life right now. Maybe I would find something else. Maybe I would find some other purpose of life. I feel that way, that I'm very easygoing. I'm not truly that much invested. Like once upon a time, I was invested in wrestling so much that I would watch each and every episode of WWE Raw, WWE SmackDown, WWE main event, pay per view, then TNA, then TNA Explosion. And today, I hardly watch any episode of any wrestling show. I just watch few wrestling show. Okay, MLW one episode here, then AEW one episode there, and that's about it. So I think over a period of time, you move on, you progress from one place to other place. Maybe I am an odd man out who actually moved on from one thing to another thing. Like I told that I was an actor, but I wanted to become a games developer. So that is why I took on engineering. But then I reverted back to acting because I realized that maybe I'm not that good. So that is not my purpose. Maybe I'm not meant for, built for that thing. I do not have an aptitude for. So I moved on to acting, and that is what I've been doing. So I think that I would eventually find something that I'm good at, and I would move on.
Does anyone else have a perspective on this subject?
I think Pratibha should share her perspective on having ambitions. Please enlighten us.
So the reason Vishal is pushing me in over here is because he knows very well how much I jump on from things. Uh, I do jump on from things. I am a living example of jack of all trades. I have. So for me, it is very difficult to relate to the protagonist of the film, where you know everything in her life is consumed by this work that she's doing, which is something that I do not relate to. I can't relate to, at least for now, I'm unable to relate to because I've never been in a situation where everything is about something else apart from me. I'm very selfish that way, very self-centered. So it is very difficult for me to do something like that, because um, I think I believe in the concept that when you're doing something, you kind of give your all to it at that moment in time. But I cannot promise giving it my all later or for a unforeseeable future, you see. So because of that, when like I did my I did my bachelor's in fashion designing. I worked for Decathlon um, in the production side of clothes for some time. I worked for insurance for 4.5 years. I worked in customer service for another couple of years. I I keep moving. In the middle, I also used to work simultaneously, kind of like freelancing for makeup and styling on small shoots, like short films, ads, corporate videos, and things like that. And it is now that I have been working in publishing for a while, and I do enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. And for the time being, it is very, how do I say, it is giving me enough and I don't feel bored of it. But maybe, I do not know, maybe a time will come where I feel bored, or maybe I feel I need to move on to something else. But that is a personal thing. I cannot, it makes me feel trapped wanting to uh, give off. That's the reason it is very difficult for me to sometimes relate to, let's say, someone like Vishal, where it is such a all-consuming love for cinema. I love cinema, but it is not an all-consuming love. I don't think I would be able to live without cinema, but it is something that I enjoy a lot. But I cannot give my all to films, I feel personally. So I find it very difficult to relate. At the same time, it is very, I don't know, it seems like this special place, unachievable goal type of thing, where people are able to give away such a large part of their lives for something. It could be anything. It's admirable, I mean, isn't it, to be able to do something like that, which us lesser mortals can't.
So remember, it is admirable, and remember, you're a lesser mortal next time.
I was going to say, with that sort of setup, Vishal, you're due to answer, because you clearly have a life's purpose and you definitely, you know, given a big chunk of your life commitment towards it. So maybe you can talk about
No, I
that
totally,
journey.
I was on the other side where I had no idea what to do with my life. Uh, I absolutely, I mean, I was totally at sea. So when she says that, this is her life's goal, or if she was not doing it, she wouldn't know what to do. It's the same for me, because I was uh, I did my hotel management. I was really bad at what I did. Nobody listened to me. Now I might be bad at cinema also, but when I talk, people listen to me. So this is something that I feel I belong to. So there is, though I'm equally attracted to the idea of people being able to do different things in their lives, but I I came to this conclusion that this is what I want to do. And it was not easy for me to come to that stage in my life. I was totally at sea, and seeing everyone not being successful is not really something that I judge people for, but everyone was doing their thing and I wasn't doing anything. And now, even though, I mean, I'm far away from being successful, but my friends and probably even Pratibha, like they appreciate the fact that that I don't think Pratibha respects me, but I think she appreciates the fact that I am probably trying to do something. And I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to do. And also, not only pursuing cinema, if I am not pursuing the cinema that I want, I wouldn't know what to do. So I totally connect with that stream of thought. I do.
Hmm. Anyone else who wants to talk about this topic? Mohammed, uh, Sharanya.
Uh, yeah, I don't know how to put it, but yeah, I always question this. Do all humans have a purpose? Like I see people like laborers working. When I see at them, I question, what is their purpose of their life? They come into this world, they work hard just to sustain themselves. They just means may manage to survive, and ultimately they die. And there is means they existed. There is no any proof that they ever existed. It really frightens me. Like we come, we leave, and we disappear, and it doesn't affects the anything in this world. uh, that's really haunting thing to me. uh, that's why I turned to philosophy. That was my main reason. uh, but in the process I started to realize that it is important that the purpose will empower you through all your struggle in life, like financial troubles, loss of a family member, death of a family member. There are many things, and if you have to survive through all those processes, I think there is you need a definite purpose, that why you are living, why you are waking up every day, come means getting out of your bed. And uh, I don't know, but I realized that teaching, like my profession, teaching, I thought, okay, I love this one. This is the passion. Then I spend time with children. But when I started to question my own passion about teaching, why do I love teaching? Then I understood that I think I love being a child, a learner, rather than being a perfect or being a all-knowing person. Uh, that really didn't suit me, because every day I am meeting with my students, and last week we saw a movie, Harry Potter second scene, and when they are watching, they are making all kinds of sounds, all kinds of reaction. Then I am like, in that movement within themselves, I am also again a learner, a new person just learning. Similarly, numbers preceding succeeding numbers, when a child is asking, I feel that, yeah, again I get chance to learn again. But and other profession, there are like, what and there is nothing. Yeah, you can improvise, you can add to it, you may explore different uh, means that anything like movie making, there are many creative fields in that. But the starting thing, it is how you start basic things, and I get chance to do that again and again and again. And most and more amazing thing is that I never get bored with these things. Again, teaching them, okay, international numerical system, Indian numerical system. Though I know it, though I have known it, I have taught them this thing to many students, but still I enjoy it. I think I just love being a new learner every time. And I think that is what my purpose is, that just learn everything, no matter it may be different thing, like movie about movies, about documentary, about books, about fiction, non-fiction books, anything. I think purpose to me is just be a learner. Life never stops teaching you. uh, yeah, there are many difficult times. I have known difficult times, and fortunately, what has kept me going is my students, because they see this world every time new. They know that they are means they are completely unaware of coming dangers, of coming adult life's problems. And when I see them, I remember my days as a childhood, as a free person. There is no, means there is nothing to care about this in this work, just by heart to once a table at that moment. So that's really every time new experience to be with my students. So purpose should be something which empowers you, which makes you get up which makes you stand up every day to life's struggle. Not just struggle, there are happy moments also. That's really even the protagonists. I think why she's continuing with her work, though she's not getting recognition. At the end, we saw that okay, she's been recognized by people, but I think there was one sentence, why should we do this thing? Nor people will appreciate us. Not, I think it's sorry, I'm mentioning it wrongly, but it is something like people will recognize it or may not recognize it, but we'll still have to what continue with that work, and that is what will keep us going. Something that's a statement. So yeah, it's a good thing that Vivek brought up this concept of purpose in life, and that is what I think.
You mentioned that um, you are a different person in front of your students and you're a different person in front of your friends. And this translator, Mette Home, she talks about this when, in the film, when she goes to Japan. She says that going to Japan to do her research, to understand the writing and meet all these people, in a way allows her to live a second life. That yes, there's the life she's born with, and there's a life she's pursuing. And this duality is is something I think that is universal. That there is a life that you have and there's a life that you want. And not all of us are lucky enough to pursue the life that we want or experience the life that we want. Mm, But that's an interesting thought nonetheless, that comes up in the film. That this duality that exists in all of us. Um, yeah, I don't have a clear question to frame around it, but just wanted to ask if any of us in the room have similar ideas about the life you have and the life you want.
And also this question that should every human being should have a purpose, or is it okay to just earn, means do your be honest to your career, just go with the flow? What do you all think?
Uh, I personally believe that having purpose does not necessarily mean that you have to see it in the context of, your career per se. Like being a good father is itself a very good purpose. Being a good husband, being a good brother, a good son, these things. Being a good human being. Now, being a good human being should be a purpose for every living human person. So sorry, living human being. So yeah, I think uh, the problem is that we actually, I myself started this, but having a purpose doesn't necessarily means to have a purpose related with your career. Quite frankly speaking, that is just what I think. Again, I might be wrong. I'm not really a very wise person. So that's my 2 cents.
No, why I brought this question was because lot of people have criticized me for having. I could have been better. Like I got an engineering seat, but I chose not to, and they still criticize me that you could have been better. You could have a better job. Why just spending time with fifth standard or sixth standard students? You're just spoiling your life, and they criticize me a lot even now. So I don't. I usually don't like to talk to my family relatives. That is one thing I feel that like I think this protagonist she there is no mention of about her family. I think she's a very loner person. She doesn't talk to anybody. Uh, I think it happens with all people. Like if they are running behind passion at the cost of profession, people will definitely disrespect or no, they will be disrespected by their family or relatives. That is what I find usually.
I think I just had a point to add here. Equating your worth to the profession you're doing, I think that's just a societal conditioning. Does that mean that if I'm a doctor, I'm more worthy than if I were an architect? So, your life's purpose is something that's entirely different from the job you do. The job you do may be the passion you're following, or it could just be something you do just to pay your bills and get food on the table. So, your life's purpose could be something entirely different. It could be something simple like, hey, I want to go trek that mountain today, or I want to do like 10 different things in my life, and that's my life's purpose. So, living your life to achieve that is what is true life's purpose, rather than, working for someone and having like two, three cars and a huge house. So, but I mean, it differs from person to person, but this is what I think.
I am a big proponent of having purpose in your life, but by having a purpose doesn't mean that you need to have a professional purpose. I think, uh, which doesn't mean that your life is of no value if you don't have purpose. It's just that I've been on both sides of the coin, and I relate to this. I had no purpose in my life, and then I found a calling, and I realized like you need some sort of pivot around which you know ground your life. So I am a big proponent of having purpose, but doesn't mean that it's only professional. And Mohammed, end of the day, any purpose that you have in your life, the aim is to be happy. Nobody has any purpose in their lives which is not making them happy. Having a purpose might be a thing about struggle. It might mean that your life is full of struggle, but that is just the path that you take. It's full of struggle, but that is how it's going to lead you to happiness. So whatever people say, you can follow whatever people say also. Like as Sharanya said, that it's just a social construct. You can follow what they say, but if it's not going to make you happy, it doesn't matter. And end of the day, as you already said, that we are just, it doesn't matter. Once we leave, nobody bothers. We're just a speck of dust in the whole scheme of things. So,
Absolutely true.
and also, Mohammed, if if everybody had purpose in their lives, having purpose would not be so special, because it would be like having a job. Everyone has a job. At least most of us have a job. So it's having having the strength to do your own thing is something that even people who their own thing don't realize. It's something that requires a lot of strength. Should appreciate the fact that you had the strength to do your own thing. So it absolutely differs from person to person. Kavelle said, right, being a good, if let's say you got a purpose late in your life which requires you to go away from the family way of living. So now, is that Is that what is going to give you true happiness? Abandon your family and do your own thing. So that's again, you evaluate these questions, but you have to evaluate these questions on not. There are no set rules to evaluate these questions, but you have to figure out your own set of rules and do your thing. End of the day, if you're not happy, then how does it matter whether you followed the rules, you did your thing, you followed what society said, you're successful? It doesn't really matter. How does it matter if you're not happy? It's just one life and it just goes away. And if you're not happy, how does it matter? And actually, you're lucky, as you were talking about these laborers, they don't have an option because probably they don't even know better. And it's not their mistake that they don't know better. It's just that, well, they are just bulldozed into this sort of conditioning, right, where they're living from a meal to meal. So, if you've been in a position where you can see something, you are very lucky. These people are they're so unlucky that they're not able to see anything. Uh, you can talk about philosophy to them, but how are they going to understand? You can talk about purpose to them, but they have seen hunger. So, how are you going to? Not that somebody amongst us has not seen hunger. I'm not trying to, uh, you know, uh, what's the word for it? Undermine anybody's struggle. It's just that I would say you're lucky that you are able to see things. Seeing things is not something. Do not underestimate it. You've been able to see things. You cherish it, and if that is what going to make it happy, then make you happy, then go for it. And it's going to be a struggle, and that's why you're going to cherish it more. It's not going to be easy, but being unhappy is also not easy, right? It is much more difficult.
True. At
So
the end of the day, we have to be with our own self. It's very difficult.
you
Yeah.
see,
I
all every struggle is to be happy, right? End of the day, it has to make you happy. What are you doing this for? It has to make you happy. If that is quitting everything and just going in the mountains and teaching children over there, and it's not giving you any sort of bank balance, but that's making you happy, so be it. How does it matter how much money you earn? It only gives you a good deathbed. Doesn't really alter the fact that you are going to die. So,
I think that the pyramid of Maslow's, I'm forgetting the thing, right? Someone might here remember the exact name of the pyramid, but it basically says that, yeah, the purpose of the life is at the absolute pinnacle. Once you have achieved everything that you wished for, which you need, first is always going to be need, like food, clothes, stuff like that. Then you go at a slightly bit higher standard of living, then maybe a luxurious life, and then you think about the purpose of life. So, like Vishal said, most people do not even think about what is the purpose of their life. So that's what I think is very good point that we should keep in mind, that not everybody has a purpose of life, because not everybody is privileged enough to think about what is my purpose of life.
correct.
Vishal, I have a follow up in concern with Mohammed's question. Uh, you said follow what makes you happy, and that becomes your purpose in some ways. But Mohammed was also talking about family pressure and how they have certain expectations from you, and it's not easy to avoid that sort of pressure for many people. So
It's not.
is there a,
I
I
think
don't know, is
we've
there
been,
something from your experience you can?
yeah, we've been over it, right? Like Mohammed knows, Prativa to knows because she's a close friend. Mohammed, I think, asked this question, right?
Yeah. Last time
Discussed
we
it.
that
We've
what
discussed
we
it so
owe
many
to our
times, right?
family.
How much do we owe to our families?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the point is that you actually don't owe anything to anyone, but it's just a game of the level of disappointment that you can dish out. So if you are going to live, they are right in their own way. But because they want you to live your lives on their terms, you can't blame them because they feel that that's the right way to go about it. But you do your thing. That's all. I mean, it's not easy. As I said, it's not easy. It's very easy to say go and live your life. It is not easy because somebody might want, uh, as Cavalier said, right? Like might not, might. Sorry, I don't know whether Cavalier said this. Somebody, it. So, Mohammed said that his job involves just, teaching, not just teaching kids, and it's not. It might not be glamorous. It might not give you a lot of money, but it makes you happy. We are not taught to be happy. We are only taught to be successful, and it's just sort of social conditioning that uh, we've lived with. And there might be a case for it that you have to be successful, take care of success, and then do your thing. Maybe there is a case for that too. But what I have seen is you have to be happy, and being happy is not easy. It's very difficult because uh, people have a set way of seeing things, and if you don't conform to them, like cinema, I see cinema in a particular way, and if I argue with people that this is not the right kind of cinema or this is not cinema, then they're not ready to accept it. That makes me unhappy. But if but that's the journey that I decided to take. So I think we have also probably we have to have some sort of detachment with our journey, in terms of that we should know that it's not about making people happy. It's about making yourself happy. But it's easier said than done, frankly. I know it. I keep on running away from my family because they want me to get married. So my sister had it was her baby shower recently, and I loathe the fact that I had to attend the function because there'll be a lot of people just talking about when are you going to get married. It's mentally really it's kind of fatigue to me keeping on answering that question. And I was talking to my cousin sister, and she also said the same thing. And I said, I agree with whatever you say, but how do you have the right to tell me that what I think is wrong? Am I telling you that your way of living is wrong? And she had no answer for it. I said, how dare you tell me that you're wrong? I was not so abrasive with her. I just told her, how can you say that what I feel is wrong? Are you living my life? No. Do you have my thoughts? No. How can you say what I feel is wrong? For example, I do not believe in uh, uh, wedding rituals. I feel that it's a kind of form of slavery and conditioning both. But
and very expensive too.
expensive too, especially you call people to your wedding who just want to eat. That's all. I go to somebody's wedding that I don't know. The only thing that I remember is the food. I believe that putting on a Mangalsutra is form of slavery. When I say this, nobody accepts it. And I'm like, fine, don't accept it. But I'm not going to do it. So my cousin told me, okay, just consider it as a piece of dhaga. What's the word for dhaga, man? Rope, piece of rope. And I said, if I start seeing things like that, where do
Vishal,
I stop?
thread, not rope.
Thread.
Rope is the noose.
Correct. Noose. Correct. It's a
That
noose.
is
Anyway,
much,
it's a noose.
much more cynical.
So I told him, where does this stop? When I'm saying that this sign of slavery, don't you understand how important it is to me? How can you say that it's just a thread? So where does it stop? And if I don't do it, who has such strong beliefs, uh, who will do it? And the question that comes back to me is like, oh, you've been mingling with the wrong kind of people. Again, that is one more thing that I have faced. Like I mingle with the wrong kind of people. So my question is, how do you know that the thoughts that I have are coming from other people? And also these are the things that people say. Who the kind of people that say these things are the people who form their opinions through WhatsApp forwards. So it is very difficult. Point is, it is very difficult. It is very difficult. It's rebellious to live your own life, and people don't like it because they have not been allowed to live their own lives. They've been, for whatever reason. I'm not blaming anybody because everybody lives their own lives. They have the right to live their own life. They have their own set of parameters that they have to follow. It's very difficult to live your own life, and whoever is doing that, it's a rebellious act, and do not take it lightly. It is very difficult to do your own thing. Even if, like what Pratibha says, even if you do not have a even if you do not have a goal, but it's making you happy doing your own thing. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's not easy to just be a purist. It is not easy to follow your dream. It is not easy to follow your path. It makes you happy, do it. It's much more difficult to be unhappy, believe me.
I think more with what Vishal and Mohammed both had alluded to before. Um, Vishal mentioned it is very difficult, etc. It is, and uh, Mohammed had mentioned family pressure, right? So that is the case in our country, especially in the whole Asian region. Uh, we are made to believe that we have these responsibilities put on us. I think the biggest I think the biggest thing I did for myself was the thought process to change that, saying that I never asked for this responsibility. I was not a part in the decision which gave me this responsibility. I never asked to be born. I was brought into the world by you all, like to my parents. Like you all brought me. So how can I come in with responsibility? So when you unlearn that, uh, when you unlearn that you don't owe anyone anything, and it is coming from a place of privilege. You see, it is a place of privilege when you are able to do things for your own happiness. It is totally privilege. It might be privilege from a financial sense, it can be privilege from the family sense. All those things put together, it is totally coming from a place of privilege. Not everyone can do the same, can take those kind of decisions lightly. For example, in my house, recently someone told me that your parents struggled so much to do well in life, to ensure that you and your sister are having all these luxuries in life. I feel, and this is a friend of mine who said this, and like, I feel you guys, the two of you, are not really living up to the success your parents achieved. That's what was told to me. And I told, I'm like, I agree, my parents were very successful in overcoming the struggles that they did back in the day. But does that mean that I need to struggle uh, equal amount or more to prove that I have achieved this sense of success, which my parents did as well? Uh, I think it comes up in a lot of conversations where you feel that if you have not struggled for something, then you have not worked hard for it. You don't deserve it. You do not, it came to you easy. But ultimately, people are struggling and fighting for things now, not because they can reap the benefits of it. No one does. All the people who have fought for things never get to enjoy what they fought for. It is the next generation and the people after them who get to enjoy those things. That is the whole point of it. So obviously, our parents would have struggled for things because they did not want us to go through the same struggles. That doesn't mean that I need to do the same things for people to respect me. It doesn't really matter. I think the biggest thing for me in my life was when I realized that I don't, I am the most important person in my life. And as I mentioned before, also, I am selfish and self-centered. When I may say that is because nothing matters to me more than myself. Everyone else is secondary. When you make that decision in your life, once you realize that, things will start looking way different than they were doing before. um, and that is because I personally feel that I'm very happy with my life. I'm very happy with what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis in everything, short term and even in a long term. I feel very happy with my life. the reason for that is because I always put myself first, always, in every decision. It might not even be something bigger, but even for small things, you always put yourself first. When you do that, automatically it makes things better, what easier for you to take decisions in any context for that matter. And I agree with Vishal. It is a very living your own life and living it the way that you want to live is a rebellious act, especially in Southeast Asia. It is a rebellious act. We are privileged that to a certain extent we are able to do even a fraction of that. There are so many people who can't. As Mohammed had mentioned, the manual laborers, they don't have the privilege to even think of what I want to do. They don't get to think those things because it is just pushed on them, things that they have to do for, I don't know, day to day living. And in that manner, it is our job as the people who are able to take such decisions and able to have afford that luxury to do the things that we want to do, and at the same time be kind people and help others to achieve what they want to do as well. That's the only thing we can all hope from people in general. There everything else is just like overrated expectations.
I want to make an attempt at interpreting what Vishal and Pratibha said, and about living an individual life, and how people have expectations from you because they were not afforded those freedoms to live their life on their own terms. And I was thinking about it, and historically, this is a very big cultural difference from from where India was and where India is. In India, we were a tribal society, and we largely still are a tribal society. That people live in villages, they have gram panchayats, and everybody has a collective opinion and uh, a set standard of what is and is not acceptable. And lot of Western countries, US or Canada, for example, don't have that. They they're expected to move out of their parents' homes, you know, when they turn 18, or they're expected to earn their own living since they're 16, and they're expected to, um, take their own college loans and pay them back themselves. So this is a very big cultural difference from a historical perspective. And now, thanks to the world becoming a smaller place, a lot of these ideas are getting translated into our country. And not to say one is better over the other, I don't want to go into that discussion, but I'm just saying that this cultural clash happens in countries where there is a strong culture of what do you call, I'm struggling to find the right word, but um, fitting into the set norm. I couldn't find the word, but and in this film, you hear some of this, right? There's some guys at the bar, and they said the world is moving further and further to the right. Japan is moving further and further to the right, and they have a similar culture out there. That in Japanese culture, there's a very set definition of what is and is not acceptable, and they have a huge focus on politeness, and the culture of politeness. They relate politeness to a form of sophistication that many other nationalities are simply not capable of. So that is slightly on the racist side of things, but yeah, they have certain expectations, and when things don't go their way, you find societal pressure trying to attack at you. in Japan, there's a saying, and I've said this in previous discussions also. They say the nail that stands out gets hammered the most, and that's where their way of saying that if you stand out, then you're going to have the most difficult life out of everyone else. So maybe with this tangent, we can talk a little bit about the politics that appears in the film, because there is some of it, right? Um, there is talk of doom and gloom about how we've taken for granted that the last 70 years there's been no uh, great war. Um, and we've become so accustomed to peaceful times that we take it for granted. And it is at such a weakness that uh, the attack is made. And that's the symbolism behind the film about the worm, that if we don't fight it, you lose the war. It's a war of ideas about about free thinkers, about concepts, about philosophies, literature, creative people in general. It's about ideas, not an ideology, ideas. And that's why he says the war took place in your imagination. The fact that you took the time to read this book and dream a little more, you've defeated the war, you've defeated the worm. So yeah, maybe we can talk about the politics a little more. I'm not the best person to talk about politics, so I'll mostly leave the room to you guys.
I think Pratibha should talk about it because she's. Uh, I think every day she tackles at least one troll, so she should probably talk about uh, the politics in the film and generally. I think she would be the right person to talk about it.
So, can I go a little bit later? Just a little bit? Let one person speak and then I will come in just for a second.
Mohammed, go on.
Okay, I'm not a expert on politics, but in the movie, I found this quote very appropriate, that democracy is to accept different kinds of opinions and worlds. If no one sends us such a message, young people will shut themselves in. Um, I felt I don't know how I was able to connect it, but I felt that people should be there are different literature, different kinds of opinions in the world. Just because it doesn't fix or agrees with your culture or your background, your life, you shouldn't shut them up. You shouldn't call them as a blasphemy, or in the name of religion blasphemy, in the name of uh, treacherous, in the name of politics or governance. uh, it shouldn't happen. That is what will affect, like for example, young people like me, when we are deprived of international literature, if we are told no, you should only stick to India, or as I was taught as a kid that Kannada language, we should respect Kannada language, we should be faithful, we shouldn't if you want to express yourself, stick to your Kannada language, so that you will also promote the language, and you will be part, and you will have a place in this is as a Kannadiga. uh, means as a kid I was okay. It's good to be part of some big, something big is something will give me some identity. That really was motivating as a kid. But as I am growing and going through life, that it is just not in the name of patriotism. I think we are shutting, or we are devaluing other people's work or other countries' uh, discovery in the field of philosophy, science, uh, in field of everything. We shouldn't do that. uh, just because you are patriotic, you are an Indian, or you are a Kannadiga, that doesn't mean that you should never have a look or have this you shouldn't build develop that appreciation towards other culture. I think that's really something which government shouldn't uh, encourage in young kids or young people, like, because I have experienced this. Because we were told, okay, you are reading a British novel, then you are somebody who sympathizes with Britishers because they ruled us. uh, this has happened a lot now. Even few weeks back, one person criticized me because I was reading Booker Prize books, that he said, why you are running behind those literature? We have Kannada literature so vast. Do something about them. Uh, Read them. You will discover more than what you are running behind those foreigners. He mentioned these foreigners. Then I questioned, yeah, am I doing something wrong here? Without knowing my own culture, I am just going reading some some foreigner's book. And seriously, I felt some this guilt, some kind of guilt. I started to sense that, yeah, I'm a deshadrohi, means they mentioned there. uh, Dreshadrohi, I don't know how to translate it. Means somebody who hates his own nation, Dreshadrohi. Uh, but these things are happening, truly happening, because I myself see in students. Um, but I made myself clear that as a teacher, no matter what, I'll teach Kannada, I'll teach English, I'll teach Hindi. Three language policy. There's nothing wrong in that. Just teach, do your job as a teacher. But as a political level, people interpret it in a very different way. If you read other people's novel, other countries' novels or literature, you are targeted. Really, you are targeted, and this shouldn't happen. Uh, this is what I am seeing now, because this is my first hand experience for just reading foreign means English novels. Just reading English language has raised such kind of question on my personality and my character, that uh, you are they question my patriotism. So it's really difficult how to make them understand. um, I don't know. There is no universal uh, understanding. No matter where people are writing from, if it speaks to you as a person, then just accept it. Don't it doesn't matter if that person hated my country. uh, that's really, I don't know how to put it. It's still going on in my head. I am not capable enough to answer those people that why do I love this author or the uh, other people's literature. I am still unable. I only say that it it speaks to me. It speaks to my consciousness. How can I help? And I just shut myself. Okay, I'll read another Kannada book next week. That's all. And that is how I get out of there. This is,
Oh,
sorry, I
mom,
don't know whether I have answered your question or I have just moved somewhere else. Sorry.
see, Mohammed, I'm really sorry that you have been targeted like this. Uh, I mean, this is like taking a good thing to
Not
an
targeted
extreme.
in the, what to say, in a big scale, but yeah, people criticize, like my own colleagues criticize me that you are a Kannadiga, better first finish with, read some Kannada personalities, appreciate them. um,
See, yeah, Mohammed, see, basically, I come from a linguistic minority group. My mother tongue is Kutchi, which is like, I don't even know there is any literature, surviving literature in Kutchi language. So, this mentality. that no, we should preserve our language, we should preserve our culture. I understand where it comes from, because we have literally lost our language. Basically, we have literally lost our, I'm not saying culture completely, but we are losing it little bit, little, day by day, day by day. Like for example, family, the joint family culture, it has almost been, like it's now nuclear family culture. We no longer have the joint family culture. I mean, there are exceptions, and maybe because I live in urban space, uh, the joint family might be still prevalent in rural area, and I don't know about it. It is also possible. So please understand that I'm coming from a place of ignorance, and then go ahead. But there are few things that I have also understood, and the one thing that I totally agree with you being reading the books from British authors, or why not French authors or some other foreign authors, is that when you write, obviously your culture influences your writing a lot. And I honestly believe this, that when you read something which is basically influenced by your native culture, and then you read something which is influenced by some other culture, you basically get a more better grasp of what your culture is and what your culture is not, what is wrong in your culture and what is so much better in your culture than other people's culture. So that is why that Japanese guy is saying that democracy means we should have a space for each and every idea, and this every ideology should have a place, so that people can understand and decide what they want to stand for, what they not want. Because a lot of time we do not realize what we have until we lose it, or we realize that this person does not has this. How ridiculous is it? Like we are coming from a place of privilege over there, because we think that okay, अरे इसमें क्या खास है, सबके पास होता है, everybody has this thing, what is new thing? But then we come face to face with another person who does not have that particular thing, and then we realize, oh my god, he does not have that thing. Oh my god, I'm so uh, privileged to have this particular thing with me. But then you also watch that because that person does not have a particular thing in his culture, or has not inherited a particular thing, he also does not have a particular shackles that are attached with that particular thing. So now you realize, oh, though this thing that I inherited, I have with me, is very very good, and it makes my life so much easier. But you know what, this shackle, I never thought about it, that how is it a shackle that is pulling me down, so I should free myself from this shackle. So in a way it also helps you promote your own personality. You grow as an individual, grow as an your own personality. So I think that is one of the reasons why reading stuff from other places is also good. uh, I mean, everybody likes Squid Game. I do not like Squid Game that much as I like the startup. Now that is a whole debate in itself. Wow, no, no, no. Why everybody is liking? So you think everybody is fool? This thing, but personally, I do not like it, because I just thought that I have seen very similar movies from different places, so I didn't find it. Yeah, the screenplay was very good, but I didn't really liked it very much. You know, but that does not mean that I am wrong, right? And that also does not mean that a person who is enjoying Squid Game is wrong, because again, he might be seeing something like that for the first time. So it's a very new thing. It's giving him an ecstasy, sort of, like wow, what a world. Oh my god. Oh, I mean, how will I survive? He's thinking at a very different tangent, and that is why he's actually enjoying it, because he has never had that thing. And on the other hand, I have already watched few movies like, अरे अपने इंडिया का एक लक करके मूवी था, लाइक हिंदी बॉलीवुड मूवी लक. It is also loosely has the same concept loosely. I won't say completely, because obviously 456 players and here 98 players, but the concept is almost very similar. That what you we will hedge our bets on a player, and whoever survives, he gets to do whatever he wants. He gets a prize money, and he could live happily ever after and stuff like that. So that is something that I understand. Again, the reason why the things are translated into native thing is also one more reason, because in the native language you are very easy, very comfortable to read and understand. But if you are comfortable in original language, then you can always read in original language. There is nothing wrong in reading original language, or enjoying a Korean flick in Korean language with English subtitles, or enjoying the same Korean flick with, say, Hindi audio or English audio. There is nothing wrong with that. So that is all. That's why I felt bad that you are being, you are being like made and made guilty, made to feel guilty because you choose to read British authors instead of Kannada authors is very bad. And it also beats the purpose. The purpose is to ensure that the Kannada authors, the Kannada literature gets promoted. But when you come so hard on one particular thing, no matter how good that thing is, that thing might be gold, but oh my god, he's shoving that inside my throat. How can I, you get that uneasiness because of that, and it never works out very well. So that is one of the reason, and that is why the whole nation is going right, right, right. The statement by that Japanese man makes more sense because it is now polarizing essentially everyone. You are either with us or against us. It's making that tribal feeling. It's empowering the tribal feeling inside us, and that is the root of major conflicts all over the world. So yeah, I honestly believe that there is nothing wrong in promoting your native language, but demonizing someone or questioning someone's uh, character just because he chooses to just read foreign authors or foreign products, stuff like that, is not very well. I mean, in case of even in case of China, people are saying, नहीं नहीं boycott करो China का boycott करो. I'm okay with boycotting Chinese product, but where is the alternative? If there is an alternative, then obviously I will boycott Chinese product. But if the alternative is not present, then what will I do? And okay, if I have a lot of money, I can actually boycott Chinese product. But again, like you said, a laborer, he does not have enough money to buy a smartphone. How do you expect him to throw away that Chinese phone that he has got second-hand Chinese phone he has gotten from someone else for his kids so that he can attend this online classes in pandemic? How do you expect that particular guy to boycott Chinese product because he is nowhere over there, and making him feel guilty for using a Chinese product is not very is absolutely not the right thing to do, not the right way to go. And as far as this thing goes, even the author in the movie, she even points out this thing that we have a huge set of Danish literature. So our literature is so vast that even a lifetime would be not enough to go through each and every literature. Yet we earn to read translation because it is our gateway to some other culture, some other places. So I think I'm trying to bring it back to the movie. Hope Vivek appreciates this, and I will let you all to talk further about it.
Uh, regarding the that particular scene which happens with the bartender and the protagonist in the film, right? Um, there is this one bit which I really, really loved, where the bartender plays that LP and he's dancing and he's enjoying. That is an English song, and that is basically the emotion of the film is in that scene where he will be dancing behind the counter and everyone is just like watching him and enjoying with him, right? You have the one Japanese woman who feels shy that this dude is behaving this way, and but at the other, our protagonist will be sitting and clinking glasses with him and thoroughly like pushing him up. I think that is a great scene in the film because that is the that brings out that complete emotion of the film itself, of how you cannot think of language as um, as a barrier. If we go with the this thing um, as was previously mentioned, we cannot think that we should only look at literature or films from our area, etc. It doesn't particularly work. People who enjoy cinema are almost always you all of us would know at least one person who refuses to watch a film without which has subtitles. All of us would know at least one person who dislikes watching films which have subtitles. It is so difficult for them to watch something with subtitles. They think it is a pain. I am an avid listener of K-pop, and they hate. So many people make fun of me for the fact that I listen to K-pop. What is the point? How are you even able to sing along? But that's the thing. Not all songs are made for singing along. We all have songs which we don't sing along to. It's more for the listening process. That being said, that is the great, that is, I think, the best theme of the film, of have opening up, and have like without borders, without having like only a Japanese person who knows Danish should be the one translating the book. We cannot put such kind of limitations. It should have no limits in things when it comes to the creative process. And we cannot be sitting and limiting ourselves with something as, I don't know, mundane as language, because we are living in a time where so many, everything can be translated on our phone. So we really should not be, in today's day and age, be looking at language as a barrier. With regards to the politics of the film highlights highlights a bunch of things with regards to the politics of it. You have a very clear theme of the older Japanese people, the ones who are running the bars, the other who's running the sushi bar, then the man who's running his own bar. Those are very, this thing, they are in of a different time. The lady who runs the sushi bar, she mentions that no one is, they don't want to work on it. The customers that they have are the ones who have been coming here for the last 50 years. So when you think of it that way, it's people of that time and that era are the ones who are enjoying that. However, it is the next generation would have different wants, different needs, and they are going towards another era. Not everything has to be classic, that it has to endure every time period and every generation. Not everything, not every piece of art can do that, and neither should it aspire to be that. Some things are good for the time being, and that should be good enough as well. Um, so I thought that was very interesting that they did bring that out, because there was no nothing negative in the way the sushi bar lady was speaking about her children, etc., that they don't want to run this. If I put this into an Indian context, I can totally, if it was my mother, I could totally imagine her giving a bunch of dialogues about how she worked so hard and toiled so much to open this bar, and now I am being too, I think it is too lowly for me to run this sushi bar. That is what you would, the fact that they are, that lady was completely at peace with what she's doing and what can be done and what her kids want to do. I think that was very interesting and kind of sweet, that they were willing to, understanding that they don't want to run the place. That is a big understanding, something you devoted your whole life to, and your kid doesn't want to do it or take a part in it, and being at least moderately okay with it is good enough. I think that is a very, um, I don't know, endearing, very uplifting scene in the film. Yeah.
Mohammed, did you watch that movie A Thousand Cuts that was in our lineup this month?
No, I just watched 10 minutes, then I
Okay,
had to stop.
I
Yeah,
would I would like you to watch that, and I would like you to listen to the discussion after that.
yeah,
It
definitely.
talks a lot about this political pressure and the way the world is going. And I put up a quote in the chat, and
Hmm.
that is a very controversial quote to say these days, that patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel, by
Hmm.
Samuel Johnson. Uh, the definition of patriotism may be different back then compared to now. Uh, Now patriotism is, generally more universally acceptable, and nationalism is the one which is up for hot debate. So maybe in Samuel Johnson's era, nationalism is what was considered patriotism back then. I'm guessing. I don't know for a fact. So the reason I put up that quote in the chat is to to highlight that a lot of these people, or at least the politically inclined people or the politicians themselves, choose these topics based on what is the most agreeable option. What is the stance I can take, which nobody can refute? So will it be a god? Will it be patriotism? Then that will go. So if you see the movie Thousand Cuts, there the president is obsessed with drugs. And when I mean obsessed, it's the same kind of obsession that we see here about, religious arguments that happen in our country on a daily basis. So there they're talking about drugs. Here we're talking about religion. Over there, I'm assuming nobody can take a drug-related stance, right? So, and it's a universal truth. Most people, don't want to talk about drugs, and will refrain to associate with it. So that's the stance they've taken in Philippines. In India, it happens to be, regionalism or patriotism, or nationalism. And it also makes you think that, fine, it's, you love your country. It's nice. It's a beautiful sentiment to have, and I respect that sentiment. And to some degrees, I also love my country. But patriotism should be personal, right? It's your relationship with your country, why you love your country, or what aspects of your country you love is up to you. And patriotism should also allow you the freedom to criticize your country. Criticize your country in the sense that we could be better if these things were resolved. So, because in the end, we want a better country for us and our future generations, right? So with that sentiment, this freedom of expression or freedom of criticism should also be afforded. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll stop because I completely lost my train of thought. If anyone else wants to take over, please.
It's already 5, I think.
Oh, yeah. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back at 5 o'clock.
Next call is at 5, right?
Yeah. Let's come back at 5 o'clock.
I don't know whether Pratibha wants to come back, but
Okay. Yeah, if you want to meet the new members of the club, that would be nice.
Yeah. So,
In fact, let me make an announcement in the main group. So, yeah, Mohammed, I was just saying that people find a topic that is most agreeable, and they choose it because nobody will object to it. But yeah, that shouldn't change what you read or what you do or what you write, what you wear. You have to keep fighting the worm, like the frog said. Okay, let me end the live stream and I'll just be back.
Mohammed, how is your reading going? What are you reading right now?